everyone. Welcome to another episode of Good, Bad, and Ugly about real estate. I got a great guest for you, a new friend of mine. Not real new, but new. Miss Tana Peterson.
Yeah.
You know, Tana?
Thank you. Yes, hello. Thank you so much. Man, I'm so excited to be here on here with Jose. It's such a pleasure. Really. I mean, just being able to get to know you and just be on your podcast today. I'm super excited.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be on and sharing your knowledge with the people that are watching. So for the audience, kind of a funny story, interesting story. I met Tana at a recent convention, I call it. And for those of you that are not from Colorado, she's in a place that is like a hole in the wall called Yoder, Colorado. Not very many people. It's not a very high population.
No.
And if you guys have been following me, you'll know that I bought land out in Yoder. And I've never, since I bought this land, never met anybody from there. So when we're in this conference and she goes, I live in Yoder, I was like, no way. So we became instant friends since then.
Yes.
But enough about us. This is about Tana today. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Share your story. Tell us how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, thank you. So I live in Yoder, like you said, but I actually grew up in Southern California. So I grew up there. Big change, right? I went from city girl, Hollywood, right? And now I'm out here country living with 40 acres in Yoder. Big difference. But I have a very diverse background, actually. So just a little backstory. I've actually earned my cosmetology license my last year of high school. I worked in retail. I've been executive assistant for several different companies. I spent some time on the processing side of mortgages, actually. So I do have a little bit of mortgage and real estate, right? And later actually worked at a credit union. And to be honest, throughout that whole process, there's one thing that stayed consistent. And I've always loved helping people. So while I was working at the credit union, I'd meet people that were struggling financially or, looking for guidance. And I'd find myself thinking, like, I wish I could do more, right? But I didn't have the tools to really help them. And so every single time it broke my heart every single time, little by little. And then a good friend actually introduced me to this agency, the Miliari Group. And I'm going to be honest, Jose, like I was a little skeptical at first. I'm like, I'm already in the financial industry. I work at a credit union, right? But it didn't take me long to realize that this opportunity, I didn't know that this was what I was looking for. And so I finally had access to tools that could truly help people, not just temporarily, but long-term. And that was huge for me. And what really hooked me was the business model, right? It reminded me to real estate that I could start part-time, build something meaningful, and I didn't have to go back to school. I just could get licensed, and that really opened the door for me, and it was life-changing. Now, a little bit personal about me. I am a wife and a mother. I have two beautiful kids. I have a son that's 12 and a baby girl that's almost 2. I know people are like 10 years apart. Well, the Lord's timing. It definitely wasn't my timing.
Right.
But this business really has given me the freedom and flexibility to not just financially, but with my family. I get to choose how I spend my time instead of having dedicated, clock in somewhere, right? And the best part is that I still get to do what I love most, which is helping people. But now I have the tools to make a real impact, and it aligns with the mission that's on my heart, which is no family left behind. And so that's why I'm here doing what I'm doing here in the financial industry.
That is awesome. So, when we first met, I was like, oh, you're a CPA. He's like, yeah, I kind of do something like that. Yeah. So can you kind of share with everybody some of the services that you either personally provide or you can connect people to help them?
Yeah. So we help people with 6 steps, and it's cash flow, debt management, emergency fund, proper protection, building wealth, and preserving wealth. So I help with 6 of those aspects. Now, you talked a little bit about CPA. I do have a CPA in my office that helps it. So we have a family office approach to where everyone kind of has a room in the house. And so we can help anyone with any of those things. So if someone needs a CPA, then, I can be the financial strategist and help them with that while working together with the CPA to make sure that we have the same common goals and we all have a piece to the puzzle to make sure that we're able to accomplish their goals.
And what are some of the vehicles that you use? And what I mean vehicles is like tools or products that you use to help people achieve those accomplish or the goals that you guys set for each other or for that particular client.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's case by case, right? Because not everyone has the same thing. But some of the most common strategies that we see that most people are wanting or needing to help them achieve their goals is an index universal life, a fixed index annuity, an Everest, which is a specific funeral concierge service,
Okay.
like 401ks, IRAs. We do have some like mutual funds and I want to say, and of course, the basic life insurance. So like term with living benefits. That's actually a huge one, actually vastly misunderstood because a lot of people don't realize that there's life insurance that you can access while you're still alive in case of chronic, critical, or terminal illness. So that's huge here.
Right. And we talked about that the other day when you said people don't know they can use their insurance when they're alive. And like, isn't that what it's supposed to be for? You're like, go ahead.
Yeah, the old insurance, I guess the way that insurance used to be is it used to be just a death benefit, right? You die, the family gets a death benefit.
Yeah.
No, a lot of people don't realize living benefits is a thing. Like you can access that money in case of chronic, critical, or terminal illness. And a lot of people think it's expensive, and it's not. It's really not. Like, get a quote, simple. It can help with a lot of things.
One of the things that we talked about the other day was asset protection. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So asset protection is important, as we all know, right? Regardless of what industry you're in, but especially in real estate, I found that we have, real estate investors that are looking for that protection. And some of the things that we recommend, depending on the situation, right? This is just the most common that I've found. And typically an index universal life, right? Because it's connected to a life insurance policy, you're able to have those tax benefits, right? So that really helps you with your ROI. And then, of course, a trust. And there's different specific trusts that can help you with real estate. So like a Delaware statutory trust, that helps with that in that space.
Cool. Let's see. So we got asset. Can you talk a little bit about your debt management? I know that's not your forte, but just kind of high level.
Yeah, no, high level. We have a specific company that we work with that's amazing. Just to give you, I guess, a little story, so to say. So I had a client that had about $30,000 in federal student debt, right? Because there's different types of debt. And we were able to connect them with that company. They're called Waitlist Financial. Amazing. And literally, I want to say they cut back his debt like 70% to where he will be completely debt free, which of course, when you have someone that's debt free and they lower that DTI, right, that's going to help them, which they actually are trying to get a house, right? So I'm helping them in that process to get a house. And so that's huge because within the next 2 years, he won't have any debt and his score is going to be even better because of that. And so they're going to be able to get their house. Now, granted, they're working on getting it this year, but 2 years they'll be debt free minus the mortgage. So that's exciting.
That is. There is an array of people that will be watching this, right? People that may not be in real estate, people that might just got into real estate, people that are been in it for years. Mm-hmm. What is some of the advice that you give people just kind of generically if they came to you and say, hey, I have no money, but I want to build generational wealth. How can you help me?
Yeah, that is a great question.
It's loaded, right?
It is fully loaded. That is shotgun loaded, buckshot. Yeah. Man. So, geez.
There's so many things going through my head right now. I understand it, but like, for example, some people, I've talked to people where it's like, even if you had like 25, $50, right? Mm-hmm. Start small. Once you start getting to the point where you add a little more, you add a little more. So something to that effect. How could you, or what are some of the smaller steps people could take? Because, a lot of us struggling. living paycheck to paycheck, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like, I can't prepare for the future, or I can't start saving because I need every penny to pay my bills,
Yeah.
right? And then you
Yeah.
start looking at it, it's like, well, you're spending $100 on, Starbucks, and you spend
Yep.
$300 going to the movies, and you know you got a Netflix subscription, and just start looking at all this stuff, and next thing you know, you got $1,000 sitting there, and you're like, I
Yeah.
thought you said you didn't have any money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great question. So what we typically do, or what I do, is I send out a form that asks a bunch of questions, right? We have the basic admin stuff, ask about their health, height and weight. And then we have a section that's my favorite, which we ask their goals and dreams. Okay.
Mhm.
And so that really helps us know where our end destination is, right? Like a lot of people don't, fail to plan. They just, no, they don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. Yeah.
There you
And
go.
so I was like, wait a minute, got that backwards.
No, I was right there with you too.
And so what I do is I get all that information, and then I get their assets, I get their liabilities, find out what they have currently. And so the first step is we look at their budget, right? So everything I go through. So if it looks like they're paying really high in car insurance, or I don't know, in groceries or eating out, I break that down. Hey, tell me about this. Tell me about that. And so I go through and I help them with budgeting, because there are some things like, hey, do you really want to be able to have a retirement? Yes. Okay, so let's talk about maybe cutting down that eating out. Let's maybe talk about cutting down that spending on memberships. Right? And so I really help them and dive deep into that budgeting to help them get there. And also I find out, with our tax specialists, how can I help them save in taxes? Help them keep more money in their pocket to reallocate that money so that way they can use it how they want. So that's like the first step. Now, after that, depending on what they have, whether they have debt, right? I'm connecting with Waitlist Financial, and help them save at least an emergency fund. We want them at least 3 months minimum. Now, granted, it's case by case, right? And so, have them save a little bit. And then there's some accounts that I recommend, like high yield savings accounts that are amazing, that really help them put that money aside to help them build that money. And then once we can reallocate that to move it how they want. So whether it's, building up that emergency fund, or paying off that debt, or saving it for retirement. And then a lot of people, like I said, proper protection. It's massively understood. If you're healthy, I would think about getting a term with living benefits, because let's say you break your leg and you can't do 2 daily acts of living. Well, that money can come in, so you're not having to pay for medical bills. Like that money is going to help pay for that, and will help you pay for your bills while you're not working, because you can't work. Stuff like that. So that really helps too. And then if they have money, or once they do have that money and they're ready to, I guess, get a retirement account, then we find out what type of retirement account. When do they plan on retiring, right? Because then we can recommend certain strategies to help them achieve those goals. And then we want to make sure that they have a will. I always provide a free will for my clients. Now, granted, a will is just a basic thing, right? It's still going to go through probate. So we always recommend a trust as well. Now, granted, there's some trust. It depends on pricing and what they're wanting to look for, right? But we recommend a trust to have all their assets in that, so that way they can leave a legacy and not a liability.
So it's interesting that you bring that up, because let me ask you this question, maybe, and if you can answer it yes, say no, that's not my department.
Yeah.
But you brought up trust, and then you brought up a will,
Mm-hmm.
and then you made a very quick comment about how the will doesn't prevent the asset from going into probate,
Mm-hmm.
but it will. Well, I'm not going to tell you what it does, but can you say or tell the audience how having a will helps them in that situation, and then can you answer the question: does a trust prevent it from going into probate altogether?
Okay.
Take the family out. You know what I mean?
Yep, you got me. Okay, so I will say right now, I'm not an attorney, right? This is just my own personal knowledge. And so having a will, it can be contested and go through probate. So if someone contests it saying, no, like my grandma said that I could have her car, right? That can go to court, probate, and you got to pay all those fees, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Now, a trust, it can be contested, and it can go through probate, depending on how the trust is structured, right? It's very important that you have a properly structured trust. Very important. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really, no matter what you have, there's a potential. Well, it will probably go through probate and can potentially be contested. Because a lot of people, that's what they want to do, right? They try
Yeah.
to do all of these things. I don't want them to go through probate. I don't want them to have to deal with this. I just want them
Yeah.
to, like, I die, they get it. Boom, done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, that's why a trust helps with that, making sure you're thoroughly understanding when you're sitting down with the attorney, which we have amazing attorneys that we sit down with right now that really help break things down and explain things. So anyone that asks any questions or unclear about something, ask, right? I want to be very specific. No matter who you sit down with, if you are getting a trust, make sure you're asking all the questions and make sure that's very clear and that I explain it to you, because that's very important to make sure that you're able to leave that legacy for your family.
got you. Like I said, every time I have a guest on, I like for them to share stories. Like, can
Yes.
you share a good story and then, a nightmare story that you had in your journey? And now I understand it's not real estate, but I mean, we talked about this already, right?
Yeah.
So something that people can relate to. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got several stories. We have story time all day.
right. Hey, let's go. Do it.
Let's see. Okay. I mean, there's one in particular that does have to do a little bit with real estate. That's my favorite, right? It was, I think, the most impactful for me. And, I'll say that one for best for last. First one that was a little heartbreaking is we had a client, young, right, in her early 20s, and she was wanting to get a term with living benefits. I'm like, okay, awesome. And $1 million policy. I have to say, if you are young and you are healthy, get $1 million policy if you can get it, because you don't know what's going to happen in the next 30 years. You can, I don't know, you can get sick, you can get cancer, whatever it is. I mean, you have people that are in their 30s getting heart attacks now. It's crazy. So if you're healthy and in your 20s, get $1 million policy. I'm sorry, term with living benefits, very specific, because if something happened, you can access that policy while you're still alive. And that's tax-free money. That's a tax-free benefit, right? And so I helped her out. She's like, yeah, I'm really excited. I want to get it. Like, it's going to be good. She's thinking about her future, planning for her future. I'm like, awesome. Get it, go through the whole process. Nowhere to be found. She was like, nope, no response. Don't want it. I'm like, I mean, for all I know, something could have happened to her. And her family doesn't have a death benefit. And so that, I apologize, I'm getting a little emotional. It breaks my heart. Because, who knows?
Yeah.
Because she's not responding to me. No phone calls, no text messages. If something did happen, I feel bad. Now, granted, I did my part. I reached out to her. I'm not going to live with regret, but it breaks my heart to know that she was qualified for $1 million policy, great price, and not going to go through with it. So that's my bad. That's what hurts the most, is that when I'm able to put a plan together for clients and give them what they want and give them what they're looking for, and then them not move forward with it.
You scared me there. I had wait for a dark ending where she's like, yeah, she was on her way to my office to sign the paperwork and then got hit by a bus or something. You know what I mean?
Okay. I'm sorry, it's not that dark, but
that's good. I mean, I'm glad that we don't know, right? Because
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
I'm hopeful she just chose not to. Proceed.
Exactly. So that one, like I said, that one hurts. That's the bad. And the good, my favorite is I had a client that thankfully her mother had a trust. And so she left her a trust with a bunch of assets. She lives in California, right? And she left her a home. And I think $4 or $5 million in it. No, I think it was $3 or $4 million in the trust. And, I posted on my social media saying, hey, I'm helping people. So she reached out to me. She's like, what can I do with this? She lives in California. Taxes are high, right? Not as high as Hawaii, but they're pretty high. She's like, what can I do? I want to avoid as much taxes as possible. And so we sat down, thing I always do, send the information, find out what her goals, find out what she wanted to do, and really see the whole picture. And so we, set up a trust for her, right? So she was able to get a trust, get those assets. she actually sold her mother's home because she did have two sisters that she was sharing everything with. They sold their mother's home. I think they got 4.5, almost 5 million for the home.
Wow.
So that's right. So she's already up to several millions now that
Right.
she's gonna have to pay taxes on. And so she actually wanted to open up some index universal lives for her grandchildren. And so she opened a couple of those. She got a fixed index annuity and, like I said, a trust. So we helped her out with all of that. So we protect her, got her retirement set for her, so she's able to retire, which she actually retired this year, which is super exciting. And yeah, and they actually moved out of California. So they sold their house in California. I think it's still on the market right now, but they bought a house in Idaho. And so they're actually moving down this month, paid in full. So house paid in full. They have their beautiful house in Idaho that they're able to use that money from. And she has some money in the trust. She got stuff for her grandchildren that she wanted, and I think a couple of things for her kids. And so when tax time came around, I can't remember, so like almost $8 million. I think she only paid, if I remember correctly, she called me and she was like, "Thank you so much." She's like, "I only paid like 8 or 10,000 in taxes out of like 7-8 million." I was like, "Let's go!" So, and she was able to get a dream house. Yeah.
That's awesome. So two things from that. One, it sounds like you don't limit to a geographic area for your clients. So
no, I do not. Yes, sir. We're on all 50 states, Canada, and Puerto Rico. I believe we're looking on the Dominican Republic, Dominicana. But yeah, we're growing. I can help anybody in all 50 states, Canada and Puerto Rico.
And then kind of going to go back to the conversation we had the other day.
Yes.
So for all you Dave Ramsey fans out there, I don't know if you caught it, but her client paid 100% for the house, debt free. She stayed debt. Well, I don't say stayed debt free, but
yeah,
as far as her house is concerned, it's paid off.
Yeah.
Hurt me when she told me that she did that because I'm as a real estate investor, and she could have bought 5 or 6 homes with that money and bought one for each of her grandkids, but.
It hurt me too. I'm not gonna lie. She did things differently, but she was super excited and she wanted to get out of California. So
Sure.
I told her that we could have done things differently. She's like, "It's okay next time." I'm like, "Okay."
Next time, okay. That's funny.
Yeah, but
okay. Well, people have been listening to you and you sharing your journey, sharing the services that you provide. If somebody's like, I like this girl, she's somebody I could work with. How can somebody reach out to you and utilize your services, or if they want to get contact with you, maybe for a quick little, what would you do, or what would you advise me to do? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, for like a free consultation. I do have Instagram. It's Tana_Peterson. I do have LinkedIn, just Tana Peterson. And my email is tanamarie.ld. It stands for leadership development @gmail.com. And I do have a YouTube channel, Tana Talks Legacy. So any one of those platforms. Oh, and of course, Facebook, Tana Peterson as well. So any one of those platforms, they can just send me a message, reach out to me, and yeah, we can talk and see how we can help them.
We didn't even talk about no leader development stuff.
Leadership development.
You gotta just drop that little nugget and then not explain how that came about, because people are like, wait a minute, what's that about?
Yeah, so leadership development, that's just kind of what we focus on here in our industry. So I do have a team of people, right, that I work with, agents within my agency. And so we focus on leadership development. So whether like I said, we have the same similar models to real estate in the sense that like we have our parent company and you can have your own agency within it. And so we help people build an agency if this is what they want to do. They can essentially build their business. So of course, entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs that want to build a business and have a company, this is it, where they can build those residuals and have all that kind of stuff, which is amazing. I haven't seen anything like this before. And I love that, which I didn't talk about either. I didn't mention that, like, I don't charge anything to my clients. So I don't take anything out of my clients' pockets. The companies, I'm like a brokerage. The companies that I help them or get them contacted with, they pay me. So I love that too, because I'm not taking a percentage of their assets, nothing like that. And as far as agents and people that want to work with our agency, I don't take any of their paycheck like some companies do. Like the company pays me to train people and to build leaders. So I love that as well. So if anybody, is thinking about wanting a company, it's kind of like a franchise. If anyone's looked into franchises, is essentially like that, right? A system where you can build a company. And so if they want to talk about that as well, like I'm more than happy to talk to people about having an agency and building a company for those entrepreneurs out there.
Awesome. I'm glad you didn't keep that to yourself. I was like, wait a minute, I need to know what this is for. And now I
I
do. No,
apologize.
it's not your fault. That's me for not asking the question. Um, so, audience, you know Tana now, what she provides, what services she can give you, and some help that she can give you. She's kind of basically told you that, no matter what situation, she can find a solution and a plan for you to meet your goals. So if you've been following me, she's one of probably two or three people that are in this field. I'm trying to bring more resources to you guys so that if you don't like one, you have another person, because sometimes it's not necessarily, it could be the same product, but it could be the person that's providing it to you that you just gel with better. So, and everybody has a different philosophy. People also have different ways to present the material or the product. So,
Yeah.
it's not a one stop shop for everything because everybody's different. So,
Yes.
um, Tana, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming here, sharing what you do,
Yeah.
trying to help people, serve people. That's what I'm all about. Um, I try to. That's the reason why I had you on, so I can try to serve people as they watch this. So thank you so much for your time, especially being a mom too. Right, you don't really have a lot of time to yourself, so even just this is a lot for me. To the
Yes.
audience, thank you so much for continuously following us, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yes. Thank you, Jose.